Okay, well, welcome. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today. We had a lot of folks who either got lost or I had folks who had some upcoming emergencies that popped up. So we are recording this session. It will be on our YouTube channel, hopefully by Monday. But please, if you want to pass it along to anybody or if you want to rewatch it, I'll send out the link to everyone who was invited to the session today. And then we'll also post it on social media. So our YouTube channel is Sustainable Commercial Real Estate. If you wanted to subscribe to it, we have a bunch of sessions. We have Natalie's session on there too for the green building. Green building certification.
Close enough.
So we are all set there. Well, I wanted to welcome everyone joining us today for this session on retention and attraction of tenants through sustainability. We have two wonderful speakers, but before we get to them, I actually wanted to start off the conversation about leasing and kind of talk you through the past, the present, and the future. I'm the ED of the Dallas 2030 district, but if you don't know, I'm also a broker. I've been doing leasing and buying, selling, retail, land, everything for the past 20 plus years. And, I've seen the ups and the downs of leasing. And I just kind of wanted to walk you through because we've gone through so much change politically, economically, public health, and so much more. And it affected all the spaces, including commercial real estate. Before, I guess maybe the last 15 years, before COVID, kind of think that sustainability was like, I would like to have, rather than, this is something that we need to negotiate in a lease. I think COVID kind of changed things. I think it kind of accelerated sustainability. In the past, it was more about just the building, and tenants didn't really look for sustainability. It was a very odd time. But now I think that people are more aware of, there are so many products out there for energy efficiency, and why are we not using them? And, their clients also are saying, well, is this company sustainable? Because I'd like to work with companies that are sustainable. So I think it's super important to note that COVID kind of accelerated this. Now we've got healthy buildings, we've got certifications, we have, property managers working with the sustainability team. I attended yesterday the data center summit by GDI, and you should have seen there were so many sustainability folks there who just worked with property managers, in not just data centers, but in other buildings. So, that's kind of where we are right now, that new normal. And people are expecting it. The hybrid workspace, right? We went from remote to hybrid, and some people stayed in remote, some people didn't. Some people loved the office, some people loved home. And so, the way we live, work, and play, it's a little different these days. And so we want to make sure that if they do come to the office, that they have, a space for them. I think office is changing. It's just not about cubicles and chairs anymore. I think I went to one of our buildings. I can't remember which one. I think it was at the Union Dallas, and they had ping pong tables. Like, it was an open floor plan. And, they were talking about, this balance of life and talking about building certifications. And, as a broker, people come to me, companies say, well, we want a building that, is reporting to Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We want to make sure that there's transparency and data. It's kind of the future of what's happening right now. Companies, the public ones have to report ESG. And so they really want transparency. They want data. They want all of this stuff available to them so that they can make a decision. Now they have choices. And then we have a lot of buildings that are older that are going through the change. And so, here at the Dallas 2030 district, we have sessions for incentives and rebates. Train is one of our members, and, they've been there, done that. They know the tax credits, they know, they've been there and they've done that. So it's easier for them to come in and be able to help our members get one step closer to the 2030 goals. But I know I was talking about leasing. I could do that all day, but I do want to move forward in the discussion because we're going to be discussing a lot of this in the discussion itself. I wanted to introduce GBI and JLL. They are both Dallas 2030 district members. JLL is actually a founding member of the Dallas 2030 district, and GBI is not far behind. Tim Thiel, he's one of our members. He sits on the board and he introduced us, and so we all have a happy relationship here. But I'm excited to introduce both of them. I'm going to hand it over to Adam to do a quick little introduction, and then we'll hand it over to Joseph.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Wellen. I am the Senior Director of Membership and Community with the Green Building Initiative, GBI. We're a nonprofit, international nonprofit at this point. What we provide is we actually build the standard for sustainable buildings. And we have two standards out in the market, one for new construction and one for existing buildings. It's really measuring the operations and maintenance of a building. I can say that the top two areas that GBI has, and then we turn those standards into a tool that you can use. It's a whole building certification system called Green Globes. It's been in the market since 2004. There's definitely a lot of competition in this field, but the two places where I think GBI has been excelling lately is in multifamily and data centers. Lately, all I've gotten to talk about is data centers, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room have had that experience lately. So I'm really excited to be here and being able to talk about the other thing that we do really well, multifamily certification.
Fine. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Granado. I'm with JLL's Sustainable Operations team as a portfolio energy and sustainability manager on our financial institutions vertical. I do work with a client up in the Northeast, but I am Dallas based and have actually worked at firms here in Dallas as well that have dealt with sustainability initiative reporting and consulting, but now working mainly in an operations lens with a client that has a little bit over 1 million square feet of commercial office space. And I also am dabbling in their specific example of being in a tenant as well as a landlord. Yeah, then being a landlord for some clients that are looking to start working in some of the office space.
I think it's wonderful having a national perspective also of what's going on outside of Dallas too, and maybe we can bring some of that over here as well. So I think that that's really wonderful. You were popular yesterday. I was throwing out your name at the data center conference, and like, of course we know him. So,
and in that way, I'll give another bit of disclosure. Joseph and I actually, so GBI is a small company. About 5 years ago, there were maybe 18 of us or so, and Joseph was one of the 18 that, Salima didn't know when she matched us up together that I was like, oh yeah, we know each other well. We're good.
Yes, definitely. But you know what? They both work really great together. And so I thought the chemistry would be so good for this session when I did find out. So I'm really excited to get their take on some questions that I have for them. In a couple of sentences, what has changed the most in tenant expectations over the last maybe 3 to 5, 7 years? Maybe pre-COVID, maybe kind of during COVID?
To your point, I think I'd start out that in the past, sustainability was nice to have amenity, you would say. Whereas now in a new normal, it's seen as business as usual, like this is what is expected. And that's mainly from tenants expecting verifiable performance, either in energy, water, waste, or even occupant well-being. There's been that shift where there's starting to expect that.
Yeah, I think it was COVID that really started bringing the trend home that making it human-centered, these spaces. And the fact that the example I love to give is when my partner, who is a teacher, was talking, she was on the committee getting the school reopened, and she was talking with me and kind of listening in the way that a good partner does. And she mentioned something about ASHRAE 90.1. My ears perked up like, wait, you what? And I just couldn't believe that now that became part of the discourse. And just people who don't work in construction or buildings now know about this and understand the importance of health and wellness. So I think that's been really pushing a lot of how buildings or how building owners are thinking about what they need to provide.
Yeah, and I think building certifications are super important. When I represent companies, they ask me, is this a LEED building or does this have this kind of certification? And there's so many certifications out there that, I have to kind of walk them through and say, this is the certification this building has, or it's in the process of. So I think that, that's just a new avenue in the last 5 years is air quality. Everyone's realizing that that's super important. How did COVID travel? And so now they're turning to folks like JLL for advice. They're turning to folks at GBI saying, please guide us, please help us. And working with HR. I don't know. Now HR is getting involved with the facilities. And so that's pretty exciting too, because they're caring about their employees and that way they can represent the employees in the facility area. Thank you for that. So where does sustainability show up the most in your day-to-day work today?
Yeah, in mine, with my account specifically, it's really identifying operational inefficiencies and efficiencies. We are regularly tracking, we have service through Eversource, our utility, in order to get hourly interval data. So we're always having real-time monitoring to figure out if there's a massive spike, okay, go to engineering, go to IFM, figure out what caused that. And if it's a one-off anomaly, we can account for it whenever the client sees it on our sustainability reports, or if it's something that is an ongoing issue, be able to escalate it and be able to find some repairs that are needed for it. Additionally, in the past couple of weeks, our recording services have been working overtime, mainly due to the car visit SA 253, I think. I forgot what the California regulation was, but for scope 1 and 2 emissions, which we've been monitoring that regularly, but now our client is going to have to start reporting to that. So just local and local regulations, but also
Yeah, I mean, I think we can have a cool down conversation about the regulations, how you have, Berto, you have local law 97, then you have out in California, that those are really going to be. And we can have I plan to talk later about the difference between having the incentive based versus, and they have the carrot and stick, it's really what those are built for. How sustainability, it's kind of an easy question for me. That it's something that I love about working for a nonprofit, that everyone in my company clearly knows what our mission is, that we are trying to improve the built environment for climate and society. So it's thinking about when people are going through a Green Globes assessment, it's thinking about everything in the building, making sure that any choice you make you can make a choice to be more sustainable. That a lot of the criteria is on a level, the material section, you were thinking about site, so not just the building, but everything around the building. Like talk about health and wellness gets measured to make sure. So it's really being holistic in this sustainable way.
I think I love the word holistic because it's like you have so many different moving parts when you are either creating a building, retrofitting, anything that you're doing to the building, you have to think about the holistic approach. So I do love that word when it comes to sustainability because it's just not one thing. Joseph, you talked a little bit about, sustainability today. I know you can't really talk much about your client, but what are you seeing? What is the ask in sustainability?
The biggest one is being a subject matter expert. They are pulled in so many different directions, whether that be their workplace experience or their securities, which is fancy word for their real estate arm, to be able to find ways that our sustainability program can really branch both of those areas together. And a lot of that deals with really the workplace experience. I mean, that's our core aim, is to be able to provide a wonderful work environment, because ultimately that'll influence how the rest of their operation is going. So that seems to be at least in my experience with my specific client, that's the kind of
That's what they're looking for. Yeah, and you know what, I'm seeing that here in the Dallas market too. They're really looking for innovative solutions and, you know, they want to be a part of it. You know, RFPs and everything else that they're doing, you know, they want to be a part of it and say, okay, yes, this is how we want, you know, our space to be, and the building that we're in. Um, Adam, I want you to kind of build on that. From your perspective, what does a certification like Green Globe signal to tenants when they're evaluating a building?
What does it signal to tenants? You know, it's the type of thing that I kind of think about this one and why they would want to go through the certification. Like, what are the things? Well, I'll take it from the tenant side point of view, though, especially the fact that the people who care about the environment are obviously the younger people. And I did some number counting, and I did not write my sources down, and that makes me really upset when I looked at my paper. So just trust me, these were peer-reviewed things that I looked up on the internet.
Maybe we can get you the source.
This was not AI. This was just doing old school research.
This was not AI, it was Adam.
This was, yeah, I just put the AI. Yeah. So, and some of it is no brainers. The fact that, you know, that people want to live in a healthy space. That's pretty obvious. It should be pretty obvious, but unless you're communicating to them, they don't know that your space is actually healthy. That's kind of one of the reasons that certifications are a good idea, to be able to actually communicate through third party to say, this is actually a building that has a certification. So they can say it all they want. That proof point is really important. And I think that, so it was something you said in the opening, that how the fact that you said that consumers are wanting to support companies that think environmentalism. Gen Z and younger millennials, this 81% today think that companies should be pursuing environmentalism. So it's a fairly universal take, and that's going to go into their decisions of where they're going to live.
Yeah, and what about on the landlord side? I know that you know, we have architects here, we've got, you know, professional members here. I think that they also want to see the perspective of maybe a landlord.
From that point of view, it's pretty easy that there's proving cost savings on maintenance and tenant retention. You have an increased value to the property, and it's also kind of the right thing to do. That, you know, there might be some more upfront costs, and we can talk about that, how the payback over the time, doing the sustainable improvements, it's making your building a higher performing building. So why wouldn't you do that? You can become a differentiator for your client, the tenants that everybody's fighting for. You are going to, in the end, be saving money by having this much better performing building.
Yeah, and that's for attraction of tenants and to retain them. I think it's super important to listen to them because, you know, you'll have to retain them, making sure that they're happy and their employees are happy. So I think that that's a really important point to look at it from both perspectives, especially for Green Globes. You know, you want to look at it from the tenant's perspective and the landlord's perspective. You know, it's just not about the bottom line anymore. Most people want to do the right thing when it comes to, you know, commercial real estate. You know, everything's just moving so quickly. Just I have a question for you about ESG and sustainability requirements. How are you seeing all of that showing up?
we're really seeing it in, I think it's really from the executive level. Like, we have our executives that really care deeply. We also have local, like, champions within an organization that are really pushing for that, to your point, Adam, of having a younger demographic that really wants to be a part of an environment that is pursuing a more holistic sustainability strategy. And it's also becoming part of the core business strategy as well, with, to your point, also with cost savings. That's the name of the game as far as my clients, financial institutions, is really where can they drive the most operational savings. And it goes hand in hand with their workforce, and they're able to provide amenities and things that they genuinely enjoy and can make the most use out of. And it also happens to be efficiency, like LED lighting. They're automated switching, sorry. Just kind of no-brainer items like that. That's really part of the ESG strategy. Try to pursue.
I'll follow up on that just for a second, that it's kind of got to the point, and it's just something I'm not sure if I had a later thing that I was gonna bring it up, but the baseline of what a tenant expects of, for example, in our standard, you can get points for having carpeting that does not have all terrible chemicals and, that is made from recycled material. You can't find carpeting anymore in America that's not made from recycled material. The councils, all these trade associations made sure of that, and demand made sure of that. LED lighting, nobody's not going to put LED lighting into a building. So those fail to be differentiator points. It's now that's the baseline, and you really have to, if you want to be your apartment to be attracting, you have to move up a list step and do those extra things that you should be doing. And one other point I forgot about the young generation. This one I actually have the citation for. In the Journal of Property Management, 61% of renters say they would pay more for an eco-friendly apartment. So I don't know if that is true or not. You guys would know much better than I would. I think that's people saying what they want, and when it actually comes down to it, they want the cheapest place they can get.
Wouldn't
But-
savings also, like, if you have an eco-friendly place, and you pay a little bit more, maybe your energy level is lower, maybe your cost is lower, maybe,
Or it's like the building is going to have, your utilities will be much lower.
definitely. But yeah, I think it's just such a great point that, sometimes what we're looking in commercial, it's also in residential, because right now, like I said in the beginning, we live, work, and play. It's kind of blurred lines now because a lot of folks are working from home and a lot of folks are, living in uptown and downtown. So it's kind of just all blurring up. And so we want to make sure that they're working, living, and playing clean.
I think it's something like 92% of your time you spend inside. I try not to spend that much time inside, but that's the reality of all of us who are obsessively working from our desks all day and then watching TV at night, staring at more panels. But yeah.
Definitely. I want to kind of shift the conversation a little bit. Who's really driving this shift? Corporate leadership, employees? I know we kind of talked about it, investors, or what kind of mix is it, Joseph, and who's pushing this change of sustainability in leasing and in commercial real estate?
It's been a mix of all three. So you have the executive level, also investors, and you have the workforce. So it's a mix of all of those. And to that point, I mean, all of these factors, all of these players really want strategic assets in some way or another. So that's really where I'm seeing a lot of it. Being able to support occupant well-being, business objectives, as well as overall ROI. All of those are impacted dollars, at least in the commercial, or I'm sorry, in the commercial.
Yeah, and especially in buildings. Yeah, definitely. So Adam, tell me a little bit about how this certification, I know that, when I first joined GDI as a member, it was a little slower. You were trying to get the word out, and now I can't even get a hold of you. So can you kind of talk about how that?
Unfortunately, true. I know I've had some emails, but I've been feeling bad constantly.
Well, no, because I know you're busy, and that's a wonderful thing because, buildings and retail and just all these different commercial real estate spaces are coming to you and saying, okay, talk to us. What is this certification? We need it. What do we need from it? So can you talk a little bit about that shift of, when we first joined, which was like, what,
7 years ago? Yes, that was my first year. Geez, yeah.
So 7 years ago, till today, how has it increased and why has it increased also?
Yeah, that is a matter of when I started 7 years ago.
But your team is awesome, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
I really do have great coworkers. I don't think I've ever had a place that had every person I work with is just top
We
notch.
saw that.
But so 7 years ago, I would go to conferences and just constantly be, hi, I'm with GBI. Who's that? Green Globes. Oh, you're the lead people? No, that's not who I am, but thank you for reminding me of that. And now we go to conferences and it's really a different world. And the number one reason is the data centers, that we kind of had some good differentiation there and we're able to get in our certification's a lot more flexible. But the one from the multifamily place where it came from is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae have a green loan incentive program that they run. It comes and it goes depending on the interest rates, which, yeah, speaks for family. But that really was the way that they would save so many points on their leases, on their mortgages, because if you got a certification, if you got at least 2 green globes and hit these specific numbers in water and energy, versus the baseline, if you were performing better. So the companies would spend $12,000 for a certification and then be saving $200,000. That really, and we were the preferred certification for them because we could do it faster than any of the other certifications. So the combination of that and the growth of the data center industry has made it so that GBI is now a known entity, and it's much easier to do my job now.
Well, that shift, we're seeing it, I think, nationally too. We're seeing it everywhere, in every space of commercial real estate. So I think that that's really exciting. Now I want to talk about misconceptions. Like, a lot of people have misconceptions about building certifications and sustainability. So I'm going to hand it over to Joseph to tell us, what do you see from your owners about, misconceptions of not just certifications, but, of sustainability.
Yeah, I think the big thing is they think it's all smoke and mirrors, which is really difficult to get this notion out of their heads that it's okay. We just want to start putting plants everywhere or something, which granted we do. We have a wonderful interior landscaping program that is fantastic, but also creating a story that shows that these types of programs not only bring interest, but there's a circular economy aspect to it as well that's able to drive cost savings. We have a wonderful food services program on our campuses, and we reuse the scraps to do composting that way, which ultimately feeds the plants and interior landscaping program that we have. Coffee grounds are used for pest control. Just these little low-level lifts that they think they are. There are some really high-level lifts that we could love to implement, but just showing them outside that it's not a fad. I mean, there's tangible cost savings, and that's what able to push towards our client to show them that we're not expendable, that sustainability does have a place in our current program and also in their sustainability and just operations. They're all.
I think when people think of sustainability, they think of like a high expense. And you just talked about how people can do day-to-day things that are pretty simple. Like, there are certain plants that purify the air. And there's so many things out there that you can do on top of what you're already doing. So I think that that's a misconception that you have to go out and spend all this money to do all these upgrades and to do all these other things. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, because it's super important, in a building, because a building is just not office anymore. They've got restaurants down there. They've got all sorts of things happening. And so we want to make sure we're looking at the whole building, the holistic, the circular approach to it. So I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about misconceptions of certifications, because I know there are a ton out there.
Sure. Because I know he's watching, I will point out to Tim Thiel that we got circular economy in there.
Yeah, definitely.
He will be very excited about that. But misconceptions, I'd say the number one misconception, and it's tied to the extra expense you were talking about, is there is the fad, I guess I'll call it that, the trend, that's a better word for it, of we're going to build to LEED or Green Globe standard, but we're not going to certify. And that, honestly, it seems like it makes sense when you say it. Like, yeah, we're going to do all the things. We have the free standard. You can just follow that and have a sustainable building without having to pay to certify. It's really, really actually makes a difference. And it was the T.H. Chan School at Harvard did a study probably like 5-6 years ago now, where they compared buildings that were built to be sustainable versus the ones that were built sustainable but certified. And they found some really fascinating results about, in the certified buildings, the people had better attention spans, they had better sleep scores, because it really takes that third party certificate, that third party to look and say, yes, you're doing it. But I also think this is one where, like I said, we have a new construction and existing building certification. And I am such a fan of the existing building one because to me, you can build a building as sustainably as possible if you're not maintaining it the way it's supposed to be. Again, I'm talking to the people who know this better than I do. If you're not using all the tools properly, if you're not monitoring it, if you're not doing the things correctly, it's not going to be a sustainable building. It's the idea of a sustainable building.
No, I think that that's a really good point, but it's just the misconception is, these building certifications just help with energy or just help with very one thing, but it's also, tenant experience, wellness, some of the things that you talked about. And I think that that's really important to look at it as a whole, that it's just not energy or it's just not water. It's
resilience.
We have
resilience criteria. We have it's just, it really covers the biodiversity criteria you have. It touches everything.
I have a question for you. And one of my members actually, who couldn't make it, but wanted me to ask you a question, like, are folks coming to you and saying, these are the certifications we're looking for? Are you more consulting on, because you have to tailor each building, right? You have to look at its exterior environment, its age, interior. Are folks coming to you and saying, we want to do X, Y, and Z? Or are you more offering some consultancy to say, okay, well, these are some of the things that I think your building should be doing, or maybe a little bit of both?
Yes, no, the way that we have been operating is we do feasibility analysis to figure out what your specific building needs, and not just the building, but what does your organization want as well. I mean, not every certification, some certifications are very thorough. Take like Well, for example, that's very heavy into the occupant well-being, and maybe that doesn't fit with their objective. And so we'll stray away from that. Maybe they really want to do a operation maintenance lead. I'm sorry to be gross. Like a lead O&M certification, because that's just what they want. But they will come to us with oh, this is what our competitors are doing. Can we do the same? And more often than not, we can make that match. But if there are other things that we suggest, maybe we'll throw them out there as their subject matter experts, and try to get them to get on the right track with their sustainability journey. Then that's usually what we do. We did a sustainability net zero pathway for one of my clients. And I think we were trying to push a lot of those net zero carbon certifications, but ultimately they just weren't really working out. They did have an antiquated office. It was built 70s or no longer 30 years ago. So it's like 50 something years ago now.
Really silver.
Yeah. And ultimately, I mean, some things just don't work, but we do like to tailor our suggestions to whatever client feasibility.
I quickly just have a question for you on that, just out of curiosity. Are the people that you are trying, I mean, it's the building owners that are ultimately going to do whatever it is. They're the ones who I assume you interface with, but are the operations managers in the buildings, are they really pushing for these types of things?
No, we have one champion, and he's my champion within our JLL team, the facilities team. He's one of the facility directors. He is we're connected with it as far as trying to be as pushing sustainability to the client as can be. But more often than not, from the executive level, not so much. That's not really their professional expertise. They see the greenwashing aspect, thinking, oh, we're just going to pay for a contractor and we throw money at this problem, go away. Whereas other folks within, say, engineering, not so much. They don't really care as much because that doesn't impact their day to day. Even though we can make the case that it would help drive costs down and drive efficiency, but it's not really something that they are pushing for.
I can see the facility teams feeling like this is oversight on what they're doing. It's questioning that we know how to run a sustainable building, and it really gets to their pride.
Yeah, or you're going to add more things.
Yeah, another thing I have to do. Right.
Yeah,
you know how to
checklist. Yeah.
Well, I have a couple more questions. I'm going to open it up to the audience, but looking ahead, what do you see? I know that, I kind of talked maybe for a minute about it, but, from the perspective of JLL and GBI, what are you seeing like by 2030? I know that that's not far. It's 4 years away and we're going to be sitting here and saying, oh, it's 2030. But what are we looking at in 2030 and beyond? I think in leasing and in commercial spaces, I think that we both have kind of maybe the same or different perspective on that.
I'm curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I think in the coming years, I mean, we're already having 2025 just passed. We haven't necessarily met a lot of our sustainability goals. So our timeline is shrinking and we're going to have to make some difficult decisions on, okay, do we accelerate? What do we do? And that's a conversation it's a really uncomfortable conversation. But I think we're going to have to rebalance ourselves and I hate the notion of kicking the can down the road, but in the next few years, we're going to have to do a deep dive into what are we willing to sacrifice? Because there is a component there is a sacrifice component in a way. We have a lot of amenities that are drawing a lot of energy, a lot of water. Do we cut some of that? What is the implication going to be like on our workforce? And then also we need to have better data transparency. That's a big one.
Huge one.
Yeah, you can't manage what you don't measure. And a lot of tenants and even some of the landlords that we work with make our lives very difficult if they don't have the data that we need in order to report to our investors. So that's going to be a big push. Thanks.
Such a simple statement, but worth, $1 million because, transparency and data, like we were talking about in my introduction, is going to be super important. I know companies are asking me, are they reporting? What kind of, reporting software are they using? And people are coming to me and saying, we need this. This is a time of transparency and openness of not just data, but everything.
I think that's why GRES has had such success, that to a degree is, yes, of course, there's the ranking component that they make it competitive, but that is forcing these companies to do actual accountability and making it more transparent what they're doing. To the degree that you were talking about the kicking the can down the road, my thought when you were saying that is I'm really depressed about the day that you have to rebrand to be Dallas 2040 districts. It's going to be a sad, sad day where, yeah, we didn't quite get there, but we got one more shot at this. But
I got good news for you. Our annual impact report always is ahead. So we're doing better than projected. So far, I'm still working on the annual impact report for 2025. We celebrated 10 years, so it was exciting. But we are ahead of where we're supposed to be. So, it's, I think, going to be the Dallas 2030 district beyond or plus. I don't know. We'll have to pre-version.
Yeah. But really, I think where I'm really fascinated with sustainability in the next 5 or so years, that you're going to have these dueling pushes with, we all want to get to net zero. That ultimately is what our planet is going to need to be. So one of the ways we are doing that is we're pushing electrification of everything. And if you have everything electric and it's still pulling from awful coal and awful non-renewable sources, you really aren't doing on the net any better. So I really think it's going to be the electric company. It's going to be nuclear. It's going to have to be the thing that we get. I mean, last year they finally, for nuclear fusion, this is where I start nerding out. That last year, so fission is the big, Simpsons version. Nuclear fusion is from, I don't know if anybody remembers the movie The Saint and the show where the whole thing was trying to get cold fusion in it. Scared me Russians, but they actually last year for the first time, it's been researched since the 60s, 50s. For the first time last year, they made it so that it produced more energy than it takes to cause a fusion reaction. They've now since then advanced it to, they've held it for 20 minutes. And it's going to be a couple of years out, but as soon as we get that is a completely renewable resource, right, for energy. And we will hopefully get there. And hopefully by then, everything will be electrified. We'll all have electric cars and everything will be
Hey, I love
I'm a
that.
pessimist. I'm pessimist, yeah, no. It's because, yeah.
I think we all are a little bit. My last question to both of you. So, this session is about tenants and landlords and retaining and attracting. What are your final thoughts on this? What are the takeaways you want the audience to take away from this session? You know, why is this important and why are we discussing it? I know that it's a hot topic, but other than that, why are we talking to the two subject matter experts here? You know, you're bringing your best practices, your knowledge, your experience, you know, to the Dallas 2030 district and to your different markets and to your clients. What takeaways do you want everyone to take from this session today?
I regret that I don't know who to attribute the quote to, but I heard in grad school that the greenest building already exists. And that's something that in my early career, I was very optimistic about. And even now, I mean, with my client, we just expanded into New York last year. And one of the main pushes that we had for that project was to revitalize a store. And I was stressing, as well as my predecessor on the account, that there was no need to build a brand new building. That when there's so many beautiful space that we can refurbish. So being able to push for reuse and readaptation of existing building stock, seeing as that was a key pathway to move forward, not just as a company, but also for the client. I mean, they had really ambitious and still do really ambitious sustainability and environmental metrics and performance indicators that we're tracking. But thinking, even as we are doing further expansion, that they should really prioritize this building stock, use what we have, and try to limit virgin materials as much as possible.
Ditto? Yeah, that was pretty good. No, I thought you were going to go with the quote that I like. The greenest building is the one that was never built.
Oh,
You know, because there is always an environmental impact. The construction is, you know, and the embodied carbon that you have to account for over the life cycle of the building. But I still, you know, we need buildings. We desperately need more buildings to be built. I mean, for America, that's one of the ways we are going to, for everybody who wants to buy a home, or anybody who's trying to, they can all testify to, we need more houses. But what I would say in terms of the tenants and this entire situation and the big takeaway is, there was the Milton Friedman idea that everything a company should be doing is for the shareholders' best interests. Then Ed Freeman from Virginia UVA came along and came up with the stakeholder theory, where basically you should be thinking about everybody in all the stakeholders that are involved. And because ultimately, I like the explanation that, yeah, eventually we live in a litigious society. Eventually the taking care of your tenants is really great to not get sued. And that really is in the shareholders' best interest. But something like doing more sustainable things, again, it's good for the planet. The getting those, you know, adding the 10 to 20% sales price premium, having tenants who are potentially willing to pay more for it. And it's the right thing, again. So everybody's going to win when you do that. It's really for everybody.
Well, I'm going to open it up to the audience. I know we have a lot of different folks here, architects, we've got you know, the city, we have EPA. I mean, we have so many people here. I was just wondering if you had questions, since we have these two subject matter experts here, to get them answered.
I'll go with my question. So, you know, my tenant hat on for my rent. So I live downtown Dallas and I walk to work. So before COVID, my boyfriend lived in a apartment. They had, you know, lead. So I was, oh my gosh, this is it. And I asked the tenant, you know, I have looked at it. And I go, okay. So I did my research. I recognized the builder earned, you know, 09. And then the new owner came in, right? So they did not know what's going on. So I've since moved to DC. Now I'm back and moved into the same apartment complex. And they remodeled the new owner. They took down the lovely vacation on the wall. And I asked where it went. And they go, well, we don't know what, so we just got rid of it. So kind of back to there, I was so excited.
They never heard of Google? Like, they really could have found out pretty easily what that was. It's a good thing, relative.
So moving in, I had to ask questions, like, when is recycling being picked up? It wasn't proactive, either the building does recycle, it wasn't proactively shares this, that, or have proactively use our new appliance, that is efficient, is that fan is saying, those words safe right now. So we were taught as a tenant, teach the tenants. And so coming from a GSA perspective as well, federal, teach the tenant how to work and live in a, certified building as well. So that's why I was like, yes, but even so.
And I was asking Joseph, in the consulting part of it, are they coming to you and asking questions, or are you providing it? So I think that that's important because some tenants are, not just tenants, but building owners, they know what's out there. If they're experienced and they did their homework and their research, they're going to come to you and say, what do you think about this for our building? So, it's funny because in commercial and residential, it's like the same issues that we're having, but just on a different level.
Yeah.
Is your balcony full of plants and flowers?
It's getting there.
Okay, good.
I mean, maybe that's a matter of
I
communication.
love that.
They need to be able to communicate what the value is and why it's not a comparative advantage if they don't know that you're doing it. That's my
Out.
This has been great, guys. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us about it. So, I'm gonna pick on my home state of Florida for a second.
Oh,
Just
I
as-
can pick on Florida.
Okay. But I like to tell everyone, I grew up in Florida pre-COVID. Florida is going through some adolescent times right now. It's still figuring out who it is. But when you think about market forces, Natalie and I were talking about people make decisions based on carrots and sticks. And your clients in New York, New Jersey, you've got compliance and regulations from the state that will penalize you if you don't take action. But then you've also got great incentives from utilities, whether it's lighting upgrades or money for demand response or shading peaks. And you take a place like Florida, where you've got cheap energy prices, you have a public recognition of living in literally the sunshine state where the utilities are doing everything to prevent you from taking advantage of that resource. So yes, you can have Miami, you can have large institutional real estate firms that may want to take what they've done in the Northeast and bring it down south. But when you guys are thinking about other markets around America where there aren't necessarily either carrots or sticks to create external action, how are you guys going about these conversations?
I can do that one first and be on to the Florida man.
The
Florida. Not a Florida man. I would say it kind of takes champions. Like in Florida, you had Chris Castro in Orlando. That Orlando is in Florida where they really didn't care much about sustainability. Chris Castro made it his mission to make Orlando a sustainable place. And we've been working with governments a lot. I was talking about, we have a municipal membership program where we can have these different municipalities, different states and different municipalities are joining, and we're going to create environments where they can talk and share their best practices, because that's where it comes from. You need somebody to me, a lot of it, the incentive for people to do things is not going to be out of the goodness of their heart. A lot of the times it needs to be government incentive or government legislation. Like a building of a certain size should get a certification, that type of thing. So it's finding those people inside of the government who care about it and who want to put the time in and who want to educate their their constituents and their other people within the government to understand the advantages to this, to understand that it can be a cost saver in the end, things of that nature.
And from the consulting side, I think there needs to be a cultural shift as well. From the client standpoint, there needs to be a cultural shift. We've seen in the past year and a half with my client, an exodus of some of the more sustainability focused people leaving and then getting the new blood and really having to start from scratch and have a top down kind of perspective with them as well, of showing them that this is going to be advantageous to you and just start laying out. That's kind of been my whole thing right now, being able to balance that, of wanting to be very ambitious, but recognizing who I'm in the room with their CEO, CFO, and all the key decision makers. That's kind of a challenge.
You mentioned turnover. I mean, is that affecting also, I know that as a property manager, one property manager's into sustainability, 100%. The next one that comes in says, well, that's not my top priority right now.
We got lucky, at least on my facility, on the campus that we were working with. We had an engineer that was very difficult to do anything, to change a set point, you name it. Didn't really want to do it. Whereas now we have a pretty much an entirely new engineering team who's on board as soon as they were actually onboarding, was able to connect engineering, IFM, and sustainability, which is really mean I am the team, and really getting across what our strategy would be going forward, how we can all help each other, ultimately help the client, because JLL has that one JLL approach. But really, it's one for the client. And yeah, turnover can be detrimental, but there's also some advantage there. You get the type of people in the room that are open to having those conversations.
Did you want to add?
I mean, again,
Or
I
did
did a little research on tenants, and again, this is your area, not mine. I don't mean to be stepping into your zone, but the National Apartment Association claimed that 60% of turnover is preventable, and they said that there's an average of 1.5 months for turnover per when you have to turn it when somebody ends a lease, which it's worth almost $900 each year for any apartment. That's real money when you think multiple apartments adding up to $900 loss. So there's such an advantage. Again, I'm getting into your world, but there's such an advantage to give every incentive for people to stay in the place.
Yes. I have a kind of a two-part question. One is, what are the typical ROIs that you see the clients are demanding nowadays? And two, kind of linked to that question, how are you all utilizing data on your own projects, with tenants, sustainability new deals, to further lean into those soft lines that can very quickly, as we know, significantly accelerate ROI for projects like the productivity and all those other aspects. I know it's challenging because the market can only demand so much from lease rates, but how are you all kind of having this conversation?
That's a good question, sir.
Oh, yeah. So on the topic of ROI, as far as my client is concerned, we're in a weird transitionary space. So our ROIs have been really short, almost 3 to 5 years, which for them, that's kind of what I'm gauging. I've offered projects with 15-year ROI, mainly for battery storage, and even that's been a bit difficult to get to stick, simply because we are unsure of what the future of the campus is going to look like, and if they'll even be operating as a landlord on that campus. So it all depends. And then what, can you repeat the second question?
How are you going leveraging data on the ROI conversation for tenants?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I mean, you all have an agency to impact financial impact for the tenants that would be that road, right?
Yes.
On these other soft costs, which people don't take into consideration.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think one of the aspects that we've been trying to pilot is the use of AI to get a bit more granular kind of not tenant information, but occupancy information, especially when it comes to some of the systems that we'd like to put in a way of electrification or new technologies on campus. So that's been kind of one of the areas that we've been trying to leverage more granular people focused data. But we also, I'd also mentioned earlier that we have access to our hourly interval data for our actual electrical usage on one of our campuses. We only have access to it for one campus, unfortunately. And then that's been instrumental in being able to measure what different changes to say startup or turning off certain systems, what that's going to look like, and how that would how that would ultimately impact some of our operations going forward.
Can't fix what you can't measure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, even if it's for one campus, I think that's great. At least it's a start and they can see what they're getting from that information.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw out a number, I think it was December of 2024, close to the year, and we had started a new lighting curtailment policy where we just started turning things off like 2 hours earlier and trying to realize, I think it was like over a $100,000 annual savings just from doing that. Like just something so small, but that was a big lift because he had to get security involved and janitorial, everyone that was at the building, just to make sure that we weren't turning off critical systems when no one was there.
And safety.
And safety, yeah.
Definitely.
I want to piggyback on your question over here. So I sit in a lot of meetings with developers and landlords. And the backstop that we constantly get is your construction cost. These are hard costs. And then when you tap on the soft costs, it's a hard sell right now based on making buildings financially feasible on the development side.
And I think it's a matter of, you have to think about who's buying these buildings, who's building them. Are they building them to own them for long term, or are they building them to plan to turn them around in a few years and sell them? If they're planning to sell them, that's a different ROI cost to them. Because they're not going to care about yet, like you said, a 15-year. If they're planning to stay there for 5 years, then that's not going to pay for itself in the time that they have the building. So they're just going to take that consideration.
I know that Brandon had a question. Poor guy, he's been making.
I know we've been so bad.
No, it's okay. So on the green gloves front, my question is, we work a little bit with NGVS. How does that compare to green gloves on the multifamily side? And then do you guys have some sort of volume program for larger developers that work across the nation?
Yes, we compare, I mean, we do, I believe, have a crosswalk that I can send to you. So Green Gloves has this flexibility so that there are things that matter for certain building types if you can take not applicable provisions. So it kind of can be tailored to whatever different. It can be tailored really well for data centers where daylighting doesn't matter, so you don't lose those points. It spreads everything else out. And wait, what was the second part of the question?
The volume.
Oh, the volume price. Yes. When you're doing 6 or more buildings, I think we do 20% off the certification costs.
6 more,
6 or more
annually, or
no, just it's in a one-time order. You can do it whenever you want, just paying the 6 project registrations at once.
okay.
And also through, so here's my ultimate self-plug, that I run the membership program, and that also comes with discounts on that you would get 15, like if you did 6 is actually the cost even break even point to at 6 buildings, you start saving money on, you get 15% off the project registration. So we really have a lot of incentive there, and our software, which is really great, allows you to compare over your different portfolio to see how each individual building is doing, assuming you have access to enough of the data. But yeah, so it's really well designed for doing campus type certifications and things of that nature.
And that actually leads into a good point or question I had for you. You'd mentioned like real-time utility data. Was it Eversource?
Yeah, we use Eversource up in Connecticut.
Is that a smart meter solution, or is that, I guess,
That's a good
or is that with the utility?
That's with the utility itself. So
Okay,
they
don't-
offer that.
They're actually measuring real-time data.
Yeah, we have access to an hourly level,
Okay.
which don't think that's common everywhere.
No.
It's just something that we have access to.
You see the surprise in my eye.
Yeah,
And then I guess the last question, as we talk about the split incentive, from landlord and tenant perspective. Are you guys interacting with lease clauses and green lease language when it comes to how these things get executed from a language perspective? Because ultimately that's where the liability rests, right? I was just curious if that is part of either program, or is that kind of on another leasing and brokerage perspective?
Outside of our scope, I mean, we work with a lot of green banks. We work with seed-based financing, which I know we've done a lot of sessions on through 2030 districts. But I'll let you answer that too.
since my team has the better understanding of the portfolio, we were able to work alongside our wider JLL team that was handling a lot of those conversations. So we developed the language that was put into one of the most current leases that we have at our new expanded satellite office. But it was really nitty gritty, just like data sharing, nothing really too crazy. But since that was what was most important to the client, we don't, as a tenant in that space, we don't have access to the full building data.
Yeah.
We can only access what we have for our sub meters. That was the sole focus of that language.
Thanks. So I had a question, and I'm glad you brought this up about retrofitting buildings. I was curious, how do you kind of bridge the gap between like facilities and maintenance and kind of those long-term costs? With the fact, like, you're already retrofitting a building, like, I feel like people just kind of get overwhelmed and they're like, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to, I guess, like, does that come off your ROI, like, in terms of cost, or even just getting through people to justify, you know, that it's worth investing in these older buildings? That's kind of a lot at once, but if you could at least answer some of that. I'm kind of curious how those conversations go, or at least getting people more on board. Kind of like what you mentioned with your engineers, there's a lot of people already like, really, we want to do this? So yes, if you could help elaborate with that jumble of the question.
I can chime in at a high level since there were some discussions that we just weren't privy to. But when it came to the creating a sustainability story around it, we were really pushing for the client to retrofit a historical space. And ultimately, they wanted that as well. Granted, that space did have a LEED certification way back when, but that wasn't a key deciding factor,
Right.
Nor does it really carry over to what we're doing now, since they're simply living in that space and operating it. But on the topic of retrofitting an existing space, that just seemed like a no-brainer for them. They actually were really ambitious and wanting to do that. And frankly, because they love the area that they were going to be sitting in. And that's a big factor is location. I mean, to the point of you, ma'am, with walking around, being able to live in a walkable area, that's a huge occupant well-being factor that I don't know how often that's kind of talked about, but for them, it's exceptionally important.
I'll say on that front, living on a dirt road, I'm really jealous of being able to just walk and get something. I used to have that for years and kind of miss it. But I'm fascinated by retrofits, and really it's probably to me one of the bigger things we need to solve, because building a new building already, just if you're building everything to as baseline to code as you can, it's going to be so much better performing than something that was built 20, 30, 50 years ago. And it may cost a lot of money to fix those, but we're never going to get to net zero if we don't fix the old infrastructure we have. And I really love the models that New York City with Local Law 97, Alberto, and in Boston, like I was mentioning, like where they make it so that you have to do this work, and they're giving incentives to try to help companies get there. And if they're not going to get there, they're going to pay through the teeth to eventually, it's ramping up every couple of years how much the penalties are for not doing so. Eventually, like $1 Million Man used to say, everyone has a price. That they're going to get to the point where the ROI, putting in that work is just going to be what they have to do. And hopefully there will be some level of morals that they will decide they have to do it before they have to do it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kyra. I'm from Texas Space Authority, and so I kind of want to like piggyback on several things you mentioned. I really like the idea that you said some states are state securities, and speaking specifically to not even just Texas, of course Texas, but like specifically to North Dallas, where the growth and unexplainable weather, tornadoes, the storms, you name it. A lot of these things that are happening that are not necessarily specific to one region, but is a melting pot of developers think that it's expensive and just want buildings up. And like what we typically see is like they're looking for ways that of course cut costs and be sustainable. I guess the first part of the two-part question is, do you think that there's a true habit of cost to efficiency, cost to sustainability, to where not even a nation, maybe, and just like Texas companies that happen to them. And then two, like, do you think that the incentive-driven method is more so where we're headed versus just like compliance, because growth is happening so fast?
Like the sweet spot.
Yeah, the sweet spot is I mean, it sounds like a cop out, but it's a building by building thing. That there hits a point, it's marginal costs where the more you're doing, the less return you're going to get. And that's really where the sweet spot, I imagine, is for these building owners, is finding it the most they can do that will improve. And once they start going and it's costing more and more with less and less payback for that, less important performance improvement. That's kind of where I think they get their sweet spot. And the regional question is such a big one because you have places like the coast that really care and the governments are going to put in the policies. I really think long-term certifications are not going to be the forever thing, which as a certification body, yes, that scares the hell out of me. But I think that it's good because I think eventually it is going to be policy that's going to push things forward. That's going to make the change. Yeah.
Also prioritizing, right? Projects is gonna be kind of the sweet spot too, right? You can't do everything at once. You're gonna have to prioritize year by year of what you're.
Yeah, I mean, even for my client, again, not Dallas based, but what I've seen is we're throwing so many things at them, trying to see if it sticks. But really what is sticking is gonna be the low level lifts, just operational tweaking, small things that'll drive some costs. You can't really expect a client to just all of a sudden, or even a landlord, but all of a sudden make drastic changes. This is not gonna happen. And then on the topic of the expansion, I mean, that's a difficult one to actually address. And to your point with regulations, I don't see it so much as hitting Dallas in the near term. But we're gonna get to a critical point where all these companies that are coming here and headquartering and that have commitments, there's gonna be a, oh my God, moment where we're not meeting this at all in 2030s and 2040 and 2050. So
Beyond and plus.
yeah, beyond and plus, beyond and plus.
Yeah, build on that, Joseph. Two things about that. One, there is a trend with major companies who are seeking ESG compliant housing for their relocating employees. So when these companies have policies that they need their employees to live in healthy buildings, you're going to see, and Dallas wants to attract those companies, you're going to see those buildings that they'll make the incentives to make sure that they get some more healthy buildings. And I do like the idea of the incremental change. One service we launched this year was we have a Journey to Net Zero tool, where it's not just a net zero certification. So I wish you'd remembered us and reached out to that client, but we'll talk about that later. But basically the concept is everybody wants to be net zero. Nobody's there. Like there's buildings that are there, but not many of them. So we developed this tool with a calculator that you can look at your baseline year. You've made some capital improvements. Okay, now let's see where we're at compared to where we were. We have a net zero energy path and a net zero carbon path where we're either looking at CO2 equivalent or energy use intensity. And it's really, once okay, this year we're 30% towards net zero. That's great. You're on the on-ramp. Then once they're over 50%, we can start issuing them, they can have like a little sign saying we're 60% to net zero. And then when they get the 100%, they actually get the certification. And it's designed for every 3 years after you do some capital improvement projects, after you decide which ones you can do. You go back and get the reassessment, see where you stand. And I think we're going to start doing it actually as a tool, which is great for when you have a whole lot of buildings that you can just run these through the calculator and just constantly see what changes you can make it and make these incremental improvements.
That sounds like a great next session.
I'd love to do, we're going around the country a little bit. We do the J&Z Roadshow. So
Well,
we'll bring it to Dallas.
If you're not coming to Dallas, we could do a virtual one, sounds like.
Oh, that's really true. I forgot about virtual. Yeah, that sounds a lot
We
more.
love traveling, I think.
Yeah, I got to make it to a Rangers game and they were new tonight. So
Well, good. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious of what has been. Have you encountered any concerns from the citizen when it comes to, I guess, resource availability, like as far as like when AI data centers are being built out?
We
I
had
knew
this
it was gonna
discussion
come.
yesterday.
I knew the data center question was going to come. And so the concerns of citizens, yeah, I've got an easy answer for that because I've been thinking about it nonstop for 2 days now. So there's three problems that the data centers have as they're coming into a place, in my opinion. One is that they had a bad history. They didn't engage with the community at all for years and years. Two, they have to, there's a lot of misinformation out there about data centers. And the data centers can't go make things up when they're rebutting it. They're unfortunately dependent on facts. Whereas, people can just say things like, they're giving you cancer without having any scientific backing to that. But, that's fine. And the bigger problem is the number one concern is water. And that comes from, energy is definitely a close second, but the data centers are getting so much better now that one person on a panel the other day was talking about who does super high performing data centers, that he said they use less water than a small car wash for these ginormous AI data center because they're not drawing more water. It's just, closed loop systems, doing geothermal, doing, liquid cooling technologies. It's really coming along, but ultimately what they've been doing, their idea, this is a me thing that I brought up today in a session, and I'm glad I thought of it, was that what they've been proposing is they'll come in and be like, hey, we're going to give some money to the school, or we're going to give, which I like all the things we do, we're going to give you subsidized daycare facilities. We're going to build parks. We're going to do all these great things. We're going to do, educating people. We're bringing all these jobs, which is not accurate because they bring a lot of jobs at first, and then there's 3 guys working the building trying to maintain it. But the problem is all those things, the community is already very anti-data center. They're going to see those as being payoffs. They're like, oh yeah, you're just trying to get us happy to put these ugly buildings in here that we really don't want. Instead, how they need to augment how they're doing the community relations is they need to really realize that these people have valid fears. Water is going to be a problem very soon, the resource constraint of water. And that's getting to the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of need. So before they are paying off people with all the things that they can offer to the community, they need to address the people's fears and concerns and make it much more, going up to a regular person, I'll use the example of my partner getting into ASHRAE, that talking to a person and explaining what a closed loop water system is. There's an education gap that you need to make it easily understood to people so that they understand, your energy is not going to be used up. They're using the excess energy. And they do a lot more with the behind the meter where bring your own power. They're generating their own power. So, and actually a lot of them are generating more power than they need and they're putting it back into the grid. So they're net positive on energy. They're doing all these things. I will, with the caveat, those are the ones that I work with who are doing green globes. There is a big split between those and the Bitcoin mining ones.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday in the session, they were talking about community impact and education, pre, during, and post.
Yeah.
Is super important. So, I think that was just a great thing. I can't remember who said it, but I don't know who it was, but she was just talking about how community impact equals education,
Yeah,
which equals, it was her, right?
Yeah.
So, which includes, what is a data center? This is the present, and then this is the future. I think they just need to be educated about, what's going to happen. I think that's the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this was a really good session. I want to thank you both for joining us, our subject matter experts, our best practices, knowledge, experience. This was really fun. I enjoyed it. And thank you for joining us. And I will send out, hopefully, contact information if you have additional questions for them, if that's okay.
Please reach out to me. Yeah.
Definitely. But anything you'd like to end with?
I appreciate it taking the time to be able to listen. This is my first panel ever, so
But 12, it was was wonderful. Yes, yes.
Glad to be able to meet other folks that are in the DFW area. I don't necessarily work a lot with people around here, so yes, get out my info.
We're not that scared.
But it's not
I just look scary. I'm not.
Not scared.
Slim, I have a question.
Yes.
How can I learn more about Dallas 2030?
Oh, wow. Yes.
Florida man, that's a good question.
Call Alex.
Finally.
Call Alex. He'll tell you all about the Dallas 20.
Wait, that was supposed to be free. Okay. You can call me. It's fine.
No, definitely. You know, we are all over social media. We have a, YouTube channel that has all these sessions on there. We have, LinkedIn page where you can keep up with us. We have a newsletter that goes out. We have, virtual meetings that you can join. So we have a lot of fun stuff going on. You missed last year. If you did, we celebrated 10 years and every month we did something fun. So it was really, really great. So yes, feel free to reach out to me. You can always email me. I'm very accessible. I'm all over LinkedIn, so you can find it there.
Thank you so much for putting this together. I think that, we've been supporting this district for a long time, that I'm involved with quite a few. I'm going next week to Pittsburgh for their gala event, and I hope they're not watching that. I will say you have been my favorite 30 this year.
But you know what? I love
There's a reason I'm involved. I lived in Massachusetts. Like this it keeps me tied to Dallas.
Well, the chemistry was wonderful too. So I really enjoyed that.
Thank you,
chemistry.
Josie. Thanks.
And we had a great audience. I know a few people left. They had to get back to work, unfortunately. This is more fun. But yes, thank you so much for joining us today. And there's still some snacks in the back if you want to grab anything. But we're